My name is Rachel. I'm 46 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington. I want to tell you something that's not easy, but I must, because I know someone out there is like me. That morning, the rain hit my window again, just like every other morning. I stood in my kitchen, holding my warm cup of coffee. My hands were shaking a little. I had not slept much. It was 6:13 a.m. I remember the time clearly. I looked outside, down the street. A man was walking with a black coat, a dog by his side. I saw them every day. But today, something felt different. The air was heavy, the kind of heavy that tells you something is coming. I sat at the table, same chair, same spot, every morning for 3 years, since the day he left. The door closed behind him, and it never opened again. I reached for the mail. There was a white envelope with my name. No return address. My heart jumped. The paper was cold in my hand. Inside was one short line. I'm sorry for what I did. I want to see our son. My breath stopped. I had not seen his name in 15 years. Not on paper, not on a screen, not in voice. Mark, my son's father, the man who took everything and left me broken on our kitchen floor. He was gone. I made peace with that. At least I thought I did. But now, this. Why now? Why, after all these years? Where had he been? What did he want? What was he hiding behind that one line? The cup fell from my hand. Coffee spilled across the table. I didn't even look. I just sat there, cold, silent. My son, Lucas, was still sleeping in his room. He had no idea the ghost from our past had returned. And I didn't know if I should let that ghost in or lock the door forever. 15 years ago, I was not the woman I am now. I was 29, wild in love, full of hope. I met Mark at a book fair in Portland. He played songs on an old guitar. I sat down on the grass to listen. He smiled at me. I smiled back. That was all it took. He had no car, no home, just a backpack and a dream. But I followed him. We slept in small motels, sometimes in his van. We made fire by the lake. We wrote poems on napkins. I thought that was love. 1 year later, I was pregnant. I remember the look on his face. It was not joy. It was fear. He didn't speak for a long time that night. He just walked out. When he came back, he said he would try. He said, "I'll be here, I promise." I believed him. I always did. We moved into a small house near Spokane. I painted the baby's room yellow. He wrote songs, but stopped playing them outside. He got quiet. He started staying out late. Then came the first lie. Then another. I found bills I didn't know about. I found letters from people I didn't know. He was gambling, losing, borrowing, hiding it all behind a smile. The day Lucas was born, Mark was there. He held him in his arms. He said, "He's perfect. I thought maybe we could fix it." But 2 months later, Mark was gone. He left in the night, took our savings, took my wedding ring, took his guitar, left a note that said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." I found it under a half-empty cup of coffee. I called him. No answer. I wrote to him, no reply. He was gone, like wind, like he never lived here, like we never were real. I had nothing, no job, no car, a newborn baby, and pain that did not stop. But I looked at my son, Lucas. I held him close, and I said, "We will be okay. Even if it killed me, I would make sure of that." I moved back to Seattle with nothing but a box of baby clothes and $100 in my coat. I stayed in my sister's basement for 4 months. Lucas cried all night. I held him close and whispered, "I got you." Every night, every single night. I found work at a coffee shop. I cleaned tables, made drinks, took tips, and saved every cent. At night, I studied nursing. I read books by the sink. I fell asleep with a pen in my hand. I walked 1 mile to the bus stop each day, even in snow. Lucas was with a kind neighbor while I worked. I said thank you to her so many times, but it never felt like enough. There were nights I had no gas, no light, no food but toast. But Lucas smiled. That was enough to keep going. When he was 5, I finished school. I got a job at Harborview, first on the night shift, then weekends. I worked 12 hours, 6 days a week. My feet were always tired. My eyes burned. But we were okay. I got us a small 2-bedroom apartment in West Seattle. It had a view of the street and a big old tree. I bought a table for $50 from a garage sale. That table still stands in our kitchen. Lucas went to school, made friends, played soccer. He asked about his dad sometimes. I told him, "Your dad is somewhere out there, maybe lost, maybe trying." He stopped asking at 10. I think he knew the truth but never said it, and I never brought it up again. I went from broke and broken to standing tall, not because I'm strong, but because I had no choice. Every birthday, I made a cake for Lucas. Every holiday, I put lights on our windows. I wanted him to feel safe. I wanted him to feel loved. And for a long time, it felt like the past was gone, like it stayed in another place, another world. Until that letter came, until the name I buried came back to life. And now, the world I built was starting to shake again. I held the letter for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just looked at that one line again and again. "I'm sorry for what I did. I want to see our son." There was no name at the bottom, but I knew. The writing was the same. The way he made his R, the way he forgot to dot his I. I sat on the floor, back against the cold wall. The sound of the clock ticked like a hammer in my ear. I thought about burning the letter. Then I thought about hiding it, but I did neither. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch. I looked at the dark. I listened to the wind. In my mind, I saw his face. Not how he looked when he left, but how he looked the day we met. Then came the second letter. 3 days later, it came in a plain brown envelope. No return address. Same writing. This time, it was longer. He said he had been in jail. He said he had made mistakes, many, that he didn't call because he was too ashamed, that he didn't write because he thought we were better off without him. He He said he was clean now, that he worked at a small place fixing cars in California, that he went to church on Sundays, that he watched a photo of Lucas every night before sleep. He wanted to meet, not for himself, he said, but for Lucas. He wanted to meet in Spokane, quiet, out of the way. He gave a date. He would be there, even if I didn't come. My hands shook as I put the letter down. Lucas was at school. He had a game that weekend. And now I had to decide something I never thought I'd face again. Should I open the door to the man who broke us? Or should I keep that door locked forever? I told Lucas 3 days later. I waited for the right time, but there never was one. He was eating a bowl of cereal. I sat across from him and said, "Your dad sent a letter." He stopped chewing. His spoon dropped into the bowl. The sound was loud in the small kitchen. He looked at me, but didn't say a word. "He's been in jail," I said. "He wants to see you." Lucas leaned back in his chair. His face didn't change, but his eyes did. They looked older, tired. "Why now?" he asked. "After all these years?" I didn't have an answer. I said, "He says he's sorry." Lucas stood up and left the table. He grabbed his coat and walked out the door. I didn't chase him. He came back that night, wet from the rain. He didn't look at me, just walked to his room. I heard him shut the door. The next day, I got a call. Lucas had fallen off his bike near Ballard Bridge. A woman saw him and called for help. He had hit his head. Not too bad, but enough to bring him to the hospital. I ran. I left work early. I drove faster than I should. When I walked into the room, Lucas was awake. His head had a bandage. He turned away when he saw me. I sat down. I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I just sat there. After a while, he said, "Do I look like him?" I said, "You look like yourself." He looked at the ceiling and said, "I'm not sure if I want to meet him." I said, "You don't have to decide now." He was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "Would you go with me?" I looked at him. My chest felt tight. "Yes," I said. "If you want me there, I will go." And for the first time in days, he gave a small nod. It was not yes, but it was not no, and that was enough for now. We sat in the car for a long time before leaving. Lucas didn't say much. He looked out the window. His hand was on his knee, still wrapped in a bandage. I started the engine, but didn't drive. I asked, "Are you sure?" He gave a slow nod. "Let's just see what he looks like." It was a 4-hour drive to Spokane. We didn't play music. We didn't talk much. Just the road, the rain, and thoughts we didn't say out loud. We stopped once for gas and sandwiches. Lucas didn't eat his. He just stared at the trees. I looked at him and saw a boy trying to be a man too soon. Halfway there, he finally spoke. "If he cries, I don't want to hug him," he said. I smiled a little. "That's fair." Then there was quiet again. Let me pause here for a second, friend. If you're still listening, thank you. And I hope you're taking care of yourself. Drink some water. Get some rest. If this story has touched you at all, Just hit the number 7 in the comments. That's all. Just 7. So I know you're okay. We reached Spokane just before 4 p.m. It was cloudy, but not cold. The sky was the same gray as the day Mark left us. He asked to meet at a small coffee shop near Riverfront Park. I had never been there before. It was quiet, the kind of place where people speak low and look down. Mark was already sitting at the far table. He was wearing a brown coat. His hair was gray. He looked thinner than I remembered. When he saw us walk in, he stood, but not fast, like his body hurt when he moved. Lucas looked at him. I watched his face. No smile, no hate, just still. Mark said, "Thank you for coming." I said nothing. Lucas didn't sit yet. He looked at the man who used to be his father. And then, very slowly, he said, "Okay, I'm here, so talk." Mark looked at Lucas like he was trying to hold time in his hands. His lips moved, but no words came out at first. He took a deep breath and said, "You're taller than I thought." Lucas crossed his arms. "You don't know anything about me." Mark nodded. "That's true. I don't, but I want to." He looked at me for a second. I didn't blink. He turned back to Lucas. "I know I don't deserve to be here. I left. I broke your mom's heart. I missed your first steps, your first words. I missed everything." Lucas looked away. "Why did you leave?" Mark's hands shook a little. He held his cup with both hands. "Because I was weak. I thought I would ruin your lives more by staying." "You did anyway," Lucas said. Mark closed his eyes. "I know." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small photo. It was old, faded, a picture of me holding baby Lucas. The corner was torn. "I looked at this every day in prison," he said. "It helped me remember who I used to be, who I wanted to be." Lucas didn't take the photo. He just looked at it. Then he asked, "Are you still that man?" Mark didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I'm trying to be." The room was quiet. The coffee shop sound faded. All I heard was my heart. Lucas stood up. "I don't know what you want from me, but I came. That's more than you gave me for 15 years. Mark said, "I don't want anything. I just wanted you to see that I'm still here." Lucas walked toward the door. Then he stopped. He looked at me and said, "Are you staying?" I said, "For a few more minutes." He nodded and stepped outside. I turned back to Mark. He looked smaller now, older, not the man I once ran away with, not the man who left me, but something else, something broken, something almost human again. A week later, I got a call at work. It was a nurse from a hospital in Walla Walla. She said Mark had been brought in. He had passed out at work. He was in bad shape. I stood by the break room door, holding the phone. My hands felt cold. My feet didn't move. She said he had late-stage liver cancer, that it had spread, that he didn't have much time. I asked, "Does he have anyone there with him?" She said, "Only your name was listed." That night, I sat at the kitchen table again. Same spot, same silence. Lucas walked in, saw my face, and sat down across from me. I told him. He didn't say anything at first. Then he asked, "Are you going?" I said, "I don't know." He looked down. "He's still my dad." I nodded. "Yes, he is." We packed 2 small bags. We left at dawn. The drive was quiet. Lucas slept part of the way. I watched the road and thought of all the ways I wanted to hate Mark. But all I felt was tired. The hospital was small. The halls were clean, but the air felt heavy. Mark was in a room near the end. His eyes were closed. He looked thin, pale, not like a man, more like a memory. Lucas stood at the door. He didn't walk in yet. Then Mark opened his eyes. He looked at us. It took him a second to speak. He said, "You came." His voice was weak, but there was a smile in it. Lucas stepped in. He didn't sit. He didn't speak. Mark looked at me. "Thank you," he whispered, "for bringing him." Lucas reached into his backpack. He pulled out something wrapped in a cloth. It was the old guitar, the one Mark left behind all those years ago. He placed it at the end of the bed and said, "You forgot this." Mark's eyes filled with tears. His hand reached for the strings, but stopped halfway. He looked at Lucas and said, "I'm sorry." Lucas stood still. Then he said, "I know." We stayed in Walla Walla for 3 days. Mark didn't say much after that first moment. He got weaker each hour. The doctor said it could be days, maybe less. Lucas sat with him during the day. He didn't speak much either, but he stayed. He played soft songs from his phone, songs Mark used to play long ago. I brought coffee in the mornings. I sat by the window. The light in that room was soft and kind, like it knew not to shine too bright. On the second night, I woke up at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I walked to the hallway and saw Lucas outside the room, sitting on the floor. I sat beside him. He whispered. He asked me if I could forgive him. I waited. He looked at me and said, "I told him I don't know yet, but I don't hate him." I put my arm around him. He rested his head on my shoulder. He said he wrote something, Lucas said, but I don't know where it is. The next morning, Mark didn't wake up. His face was still. His hand was cold. Lucas stood at the end of the bed. He didn't cry. He just looked at his father, the man he never really had, but somehow still missed. A nurse came in and handed me a small box. "He left this for you," she said. Inside was a notebook, brown cover, old, torn at the corner. On the first page, in Mark's handwriting, "For Lucas, for the days I missed, for the words I never said." Each page held one thought, one line, one memory he made up, or maybe remembered. Today, he is 5. I bet he likes blue. I hope he sings like I did. I wonder if he knows I love him. Lucas sat beside me. He took the book from my hands. He read page after page in silence. Then he looked at me and said, "I think he really tried." I nodded. "Yes," I said, "he did, even if it was too late." We drove back to Seattle in the rain. Lucas held the notebook in his lap. He didn't open it again, but his fingers stayed on the cover, like he was still holding part of Mark. I watched the road, my hands on the wheel, my eyes full, but dry. The sky was gray, the same kind of gray as the day he left, but it felt different now. Not empty, just quiet. When we got home, Lucas went to his room. I sat at the kitchen table, the same spot, the same chair. But the house didn't feel the same. Later that night, I went into the closet and pulled down a small box I hadn't touched in years. Inside was a photo. Me, Mark, Lucas in my arms. The last one we ever took together. I looked at our faces, young, lost, hopeful. Then I placed it on the table, next to the notebook. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat there, letting the silence speak. The next morning, Lucas came into the kitchen. He poured a bowl of cereal and sat down across from me. He ate in silence, then said, "I think I want to keep his guitar." I nodded. "You should." He looked at the notebook, then at me. "Do you think people can really change?" I thought for a second. "I think some people don't," I said, "but some try. And sometimes trying is the only thing they can give." Lucas didn't speak again, but he didn't look away. That night, I lit a candle. I opened a window, let the cold air in, and I whispered into the dark, "Goodbye, Mark." Not out of hate, not out of love, but from a place in between. A place called peace. And maybe that's where healing begins. Not in a clean break, but in a quiet place between what was and what still can be. Some people never come back. Some do, but too late. And some return not for themselves, but to give something they never could before. This story was never about fixing what broke. It was about what we do when there is no fixing left. About the small steps a person can take, even when the road behind is full of pain. We don't get to choose what others leave behind. A lost ring, a forgotten guitar, a door that closed too soon. But we can choose what we carry forward. A word, a photo, a book full of pages someone wrote in silence, hoping to be seen. Trying does not always fix things. It does not always win back time. But trying, honest, quiet trying, can build something else. It can build peace. And peace is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Sometimes peace is a room with soft light, a son who listens, a mother who forgives, a last breath taken with no more weight in the chest. Not every road leads home, but sometimes it leads to a place close enough, a place where hurt sits beside hope, and where love, even if late, still has something to give. Maybe you have someone in your life who left, or someone you never thought you would speak to again. Maybe you've been holding a door closed for so long, you forgot what's behind it. We don't always get to say what we feel. Time moves fast, people change. But some things stay in the heart, quiet, heavy, waiting. If this story touched something inside you, maybe it's not just a story. Maybe it's a small reminder that even pain can leave behind something good, that peace can still find a way back in. And if right now someone you know is going through something hard, something they don't even have words for, send this to them. Not because you have the answers, but because stories like this help people breathe. It might make them feel seen. It might help them sleep tonight. Or maybe, just maybe, it will help them open a door they thought was locked forever. You never know what one story can do. So, if you felt something while watching, share it. Not for numbers, not for likes, but for that one person who needs it today. They'll be more thankful than you think. If you liked the story, comment number 7. If you think the story could be better, comment number 8. We are always here, working hard to bring you the best stories. Thank you for watching, our dear friends. Your support means everything to us. See you in the next story.